that would be a really easy habit to keep up with because you feel an immediate sense of gratification and reward. And so, what makes starting habits so hard, especially a habit like periodic planning, is that lack of immediate reward.
Welcome to Mission of Missions. I'm your host, Jeremy Tears. This is the show designed to help you grow, both professionally and personally, in the fast-paced world of higher education. Every other Tuesday, I sit down with senior leaders, new professionals, and difference makers from across higher ed and beyond, where we'll share tips and strategies related to challenging topics like student recruitment, leadership, customer service, enrollment marketing, and time management. So if you're looking for practical advice and conversations that actually move the needle, this show's for you. Grab your notepad or fire up your notes app, and let's get into it. Hey everybody, it's Jeremy Tears, and this is episode 79 of the Mission Admissions podcast. Today's conversation is the final episode of season 5, with season 6 episodes beginning sometime in mid to late January. As we get ready to ring in a new year, I'm sure many of you have been or will be doing some self-reflection and goal setting. If you're not planning to do that, I encourage you to make some time for both, because those things are extremely powerful tools when it comes to both our professional and personal growth. And with that, I want to welcome today's guest, who is ready to share all kinds of tips and ideas to help you plan for 2026 without getting overwhelmed. Anna Dearmon Kornick is making her second appearance on the pod. Back on episode 27, Anna joined me to talk about time management and how to effectively plan your day. And Anna, that's still an episode that people reference and will send me notes about from time to time, saying how helpful it was. And so it's good to see you again, and I'm excited to have you back on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I think this is going to be a great conversation. It's super timely, and I just hope that it makes an impact and helps shift the way people are thinking heading into the new year.
And that's where I want to start, because I feel like, okay, we have this idea in our brain, so many of us, that, well, it's a new year, so I have to do planning. And I would argue one of the many things I've learned over the years is, no, you should be doing planning throughout the year and changing and shifting goals, right? So let's start with why you think it's so important to just intentionally commit time, not just at the end of a year, but throughout the year, for self-reflection, goal setting.
Yeah. So we're constantly changing all throughout the year. Every single season is different. I like to say that, time management, the way that we plan our lives, the way that we create our schedules, it can't be a set it and forget it, slow cooker kind of situation. We can't do it once and then boom, we're done. It's something that has to shift as our life changes. I mean, the summer looks completely different from the fall. And if we step into the fall with the same rhythms that worked well for us during the summertime, we're going to be in all kinds of mess heading into the fall. And so I am with you. I am a huge advocate of planning and having intentional moments of reflection all throughout the year, whether that's on your birthday, whether that is around the end of the year, the beginning of a new year, or it's at the shift in the seasons or the change in quarters.
Why do you think then so many people struggle? Because to me, right, and I'd love to get your take on this, it's a habit. You just have to make it like anything else. My friend Alan Stein Jr., who's been on my pod as well, says that almost half of what we do every day, it's a habit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so why do you think so many people then struggle? I'll say not just to keep a habit going. We'll talk about that here in a bit, but like just to start a new habit.
Oh my gosh. So when we think about starting a new habit in terms of regular planning and reflection, the easiest habits to keep up with are the ones that we have to do every day. I mean, you think about brushing your teeth. That is a pretty easy habit to start. And you think about habits that are fun. If you were to start a new habit where you eat a piece of chocolate after dinner every night, that would be a really easy habit to keep up with because you feel an immediate sense of gratification and reward. And so, what makes starting habits so hard, especially a habit like periodic planning, is that lack of immediate reward. When you sit down to plan your upcoming quarter or to plan your next year, you don't feel the joy, the excitement, the benefits of that planning session in the moment. That happens all throughout the following months. And when we don't have some type of reward system in place for ourselves, habits are impossible to stick to. Without the reward, the entire habit falls apart.
I think that's so valuable for people to hear because I couldn't agree with you more, right? It is that immediate gratification of, well, how do I know like this is immediately going to produce, something
Right.
if I'm going to invest the time or if I'm going to change something? Because if it doesn't, well, to your point, it's just easier to go back to what we were doing before, right? So,
Exactly.
what are then the key areas of our life that we should focus on when it comes to planning and goal setting?
Okay. So this is a fun question because my work as a time management coach is incredibly personal. I am not the type of coach or time management expert that is going to hand you a wheel of life and say, here are your 7 categories. Create 6 goals for each category and you will do goal setting right. That is not how I operate because we're all so different. The categories that make up my life might be similar, but are probably different from yours. And for the people who are listening, I mean, our lives are all unique and different. And the more personal we can make planning and goal setting, the more likely we are to actually do it, the more likely we are to stick to it. And so, my recommendation when you're thinking, okay, what kind of goals should I set, is to slow down. Because if your first question is what goals should I set, you've already gotten ahead of yourself without spending some time in intentional reflection. You might be setting yourself up to set goals for a version of yourself that no longer exists.
So do you feel like the reflection then needs to be broken down even more? Meaning you've got, I'll say, personal reflection. You've got, we'll call it professional reflection. We could even say if you're married or you obviously have, things that you're responsible for in it financially, financial reflection.
I like to keep it simple. And if you're looking for some guide rails, I like to think in terms of personal, professional, financial, and fun. Personal, professional, financial, and fun. Because those are 4 categories that we all have in common in some way, shape, or form. And so if you're looking back on the year in review and you just check in, okay, in my personal life, what went well? What didn't go so well? What did I learn? What am I celebrating? It's in that intentional looking back that you're able to move forward with a collection of goals, with a plan that builds on where you're coming from.
How much of it then is also knowing as you're doing this exercise that you're outlining, what kind of questions you need to be asking yourself?
Again, I like to keep it simple. Really, when you boil it down into what can you take from the past, it's just what worked, what didn't, what am I celebrating, and what lessons did I learn? Because the thing is that so often we want to overcomplicate everything. We want to overcomplicate planning. We want to overcomplicate the reflection part and answer 27 questions that will set you up for success for the new year. But we get tired once we hit question 7. And then we stop. And then it's too hard. And then we never do it. And so just by sticking with those 4 buckets, personal, professional, financial, and fun, asking yourself those 4 questions, what went well, what didn't, what did I learn, and what am I celebrating? That's enough to keep it simple, to make it doable so you actually do it and give you exactly what you need to move forward.
So we start with some reflection. And once we've done some reflection, I would argue it would be really easy for us to then say, okay, I'm going to set like 10 different goals for each of those 4, categories that you said, which again, going back to overwhelming ourselves is going to do exactly that. And so what do you think, if there is such a thing, Anna, is a key ingredient that like makes the difference between, okay, once I've done self-reflection and I'm ready to set some goals, like what's the key ingredient that helps us not abandon them like early on or midstream and actually helps us achieve them? Is there one?
Yeah. So, in order to create a collection of goals that you will not abandon, we have to be realistic about what our life actually looks like. So I tend to think of goal setting and planning in three different parts. We've already talked about part one. Spoiler alert, it's looking back. It's engaging in those four buckets with those four questions. But we also have to think about, what does my life actually look like? Because I can create a beautiful collection of 20 goals where individually they're all amazing and they would help me become the best version of myself. But collectively, they set you up for failure because there's no reality in which all 20 of those goals alongside your current realities of life could be accomplished without burning yourself to the ground. And so the second part of the planning and goal setting process is looking around and considering, what does the here and now of my life look like? What are my current roles? What are my current responsibilities? And what season of life am I in? I've got a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. I've got 2 little girls. I am running a business. My husband is running a business. This is not the season for us to build a house or take on any type of major projects like that, because we've got enough going on in our day to day. And when you set your goals and you come up with this list in a vacuum, you are very likely to put together a list that just doesn't make sense for your life. So we want to take time to look around. And I like to do this in a really simple way. You just make a list. What are all of the roles in my life right now? What do people call me? The nice names. Am I a mom? I'm a wife. I'm a sister. I'm a daughter. I'm a neighbor. I'm a friend. I am a community volunteer. What are those roles? Because the beautiful thing is that in addition to naming and recognizing each of these roles that you play in your life, you're also doing a really cool trick with your subconscious mind. Now, our subconscious minds are so incredibly powerful, and they are doing so much work in the background, knitting together thoughts and creating insights and identifying patterns, and we don't even realize it. And so when you take a moment to write down mom, you can't help but for a split second picture yourself engaging in that role, and that plants a seed in your subconscious. When you think of yourself as a business owner or as a professional, you can't help but picture yourself, even for a split second, engaging in that role. And so what this does is, when we take that time to plant these seeds in our subconscious of who we are right now and what life looks like, that goes to work in the background and guides our decision making when we take the next step, which is looking ahead and taking those goal ideas and turning them into actual smart, actionable goals.
Let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsor. Foresight Tech was struggling to engage prospects promptly. Staff were overwhelmed and leads were slipping through the cracks. Then they brought in Element 451's Bolt agents. These AI-powered assistants stepped in to answer inquiries, send reminders, schedule visits, and route leads day or night. As a result, prospect to applicant conversion hit 25% within 3 weeks, and enrollment rose 12%. The impact? Counselors focused on high-value conversations while Bolt agents handled the rest. Fast response, higher yield, happier staff. Support your counselors with 24/7 AI teammates. Try an agent today at element451.com/agents. So to recap, we've got the 3-step process, if we want to call it that, right? Based on what I'm hearing you say then, right? You've got to start by reflecting, then you've got to look around, and then you've got to start looking ahead, right? And so looking ahead is obviously when we say, okay, we're going to come up with some concrete goals or things then that, we want to focus on.
Right.
I'll go back because I feel like, again, this is where so many people get stuck. They come up with a list. It's just like the to-do list that we talked about during time management when you were on the first time. Let me do 19 things today. No, you don't have enough hours in the day to do that. Nobody does, right? So in the same vein then, as we're talking about this, as you're looking around and ahead and saying, okay, I think I know what goals I want to. What's realistic, do you think, for most of us, Anna, so that we don't overwhelm ourselves?
So before we go into what's realistic, we've got to get really clear about the goal ideas that we have for ourselves to make sure that they're true to who we are, true to our season, and true to our values. Because it's not uncommon for some goals to sneak onto our list that sound good because other people are doing them, or that are based on external expectations that don't align with who we are and what we really want. So before we start writing out our goals, making sure that they are smart and perfectly actionable, we've got to make sure that we've got the right goals on the list. And I like to do this with a tool that I call the Clarity Compass. The Clarity Compass is something that can be applied to a lot of different scenarios by asking ourselves, where do each of my goal ideas fall in one of four categories? Must do, should do, want to, and could do. Because typically we have this great list of things and they're all goals. They all fall in the category of goal, but we want to break it down further. And we want to look at what are the goals that if I do not take action on this in the year ahead, I will deeply regret it, or there will be a dire consequence. Those are your must do's. Your should do's are anything that are on your ideal list that there's some type of obligation there. Whether it's societal expectation, you feel like it's something you should do, it's something that you think other people expect of you, you know in your gut if it's a should do because there's this weird feeling associated with it. Then we have our want tos. These are the things that are just pulling at you. You want to do things. Maybe they feel a little frivolous, or maybe they even feel selfish for you to pursue these, but you really want them for you. And then the could do's are the things that tend to end up on our list because they sound nice. Maybe there's no external like expectation that you do them, but you feel like you should reorganize your whole house. But if you don't, there's not a huge consequence and you don't even really want to do it. I compare our could do's. It's like a glass of room temperature water. Like it's fine. It's there. You're not excited about them. And the thing is that it takes this list of goal ideas, maybe 20. I want to do all of these things in the coming year. And it really requires you to get clear on what your must do's and your want to's are. So you can, could do's, maybe that's a someday maybe kind of thing. Maybe your could do's will become a more passionate want to in the future. Maybe not. Maybe you'll see. Your should do's, this is where you've got to say, hey, do I want to let go of some of these and get real with myself about why this was on my list in the first place so that you can truly focus your time, energy, and attention on the must do's and the want to's. That's how you shrink that initial list into something that's more doable. And again, I can't give you a number. I can't say you should have 12 goals, one for each month, or you should have 5 to 7 goals. But I will tell you that diluted focus leads to diluted results. Diluted focus leads to diluted results. And the fewer goals you have, the more progress, the deeper you can go in them, and the more success you'll see. I like to encourage my It's About Time Academy members to have 3 to 5 really big goals that are super meaningful for them. And then for all of the rest that are still on the list, but they don't quite reach that 3 to 5 most important level, once we start mapping out our year with my annual planning technique called Big Picture Year, that's when you start to see where everything else can fit in.
Again, if you're comfortable sharing for yourself personally or for when you're working with clients, are you having them do this every quarter? Is there a certain cadence that throughout the year you found works well and actually helps achieve maybe more than it does, again, abandon?
So I like to say one big planning session annually with quarterly check-ins, quarterly resets. That's typically when I recommend, okay, whether you do at the change of the season or at the end of the quarter, this is your chance to, hey, how am I tracking on my goals so far? And so then once a month, at the beginning of each month, you have another opportunity for a quick check-in. And each of these gets shorter and shorter in terms of time investment. You spend 3 hours on an annual planning session. Maybe you spend an hour on a quarterly review. Maybe you spend 30 minutes just checking in on your goals, setting your priorities for the month ahead, which then takes you down into a weekly planning session when you're really getting into the day-to-day, the weeds of how am I moving things forward? How am I doing life? It's a trickle down that takes you through every season and is the absolute secret to showing up as your best self.
I think that's going to be super helpful for a lot of people. And it takes me to this. I feel like executing everything we've talked about so far, then, Anna, is going to require, I'll call it courage of some kind, right? Like the courage to say no to ourselves, like, nope, that's too much. The courage to hold ourselves accountable, the courage when we're measuring our goals to say, yep, I really sucked at that, but I know why I sucked at it, right? So, like, I know courage is also something that is a core value of yours. Where do you think your courage comes from?
Oh my goodness, that's such a great question. I think that the experiences that we have throughout our lives when we are tested, when we work hard for something and don't know what's going to happen on the other side, I think that letdowns and failures are courage builders because it's when you try something. And I mean, I look back on I'm a very competitive person. I don't know if you can tell, but I've competed in competitions and speaking and things my entire life and run in school elections and things like that. And it's the losses that have built courage more than the wins. And you don't get the losses unless you try. And so many of us are afraid to try for fear of failing and not achieving this completely unnecessary perfection that so many of us are working toward. And so, hands down, for me, courage has come from learning from the failures and knowing that it's not the end of the world. It's you treat everything like an experiment. You keep going, you learn from it.
How helpful is it then to also have some kind of support system that helps when you need it to help, right?
It's a non-negotiable. It is an absolute non-negotiable. There's a study that the American Talent Association conducted where they were looking at the likelihood of achieving goals based on different steps or different measures that were taken. Skipping all the way to the very end, they found that when you have an accountability person that you have a regular appointment with, you are 95% more likely to achieve whatever goal it is that you're working toward. So there are 4 different types of accountability. We've got self accountability, which is just you yourself powering through. We've got structural accountability, which is iPhone reminders and putting things in your calendar and using apps or tools. We've got social accountability, which is that accountability buddy that you talk with, that you meet with regularly. And then we've got supportive accountability. And that's the accountability that comes from working with a coach or an expert or being a part of a group. And you can have more than one accountability partner for different types of goals. I've got an accountability partner for workouts, an accountability partner in business, and they both bring unique perspectives. The point is that you have it in place.
Yeah, it's so important. I know that it has been a game changer for me as I've grown professionally to have those different kinds of people that you just discussed. And so for anybody listening who feels like, okay, I've tried, some or a lot of what Anna shared today, and it hasn't stuck for me at some point over the years or even, here in 2025. I mean, it can be as simple as saying, I just need somebody to help hold me accountable. And so have the courage to be willing to go ask for that from someone you trust. Anna, we're going to end the same way we did last time with that fun rapid fire. Not the same questions, though. You ready?
Yeah, bring it.
All right. Better fictional character, Peter Pan or Superman?
Peter Pan, hands down. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh, the adventure. Yes, obviously.
I love how passionate you are about that. It's the holidays, so what's your favorite kind of pie?
Can I say cake? Did you know that every single year I bake the cake that's on the cover of Southern Living magazine?
I had no idea.
It takes me 3 days to do it. It is always incredibly intense. This year, it's a mahogany cake, which was a predecessor to red velvet, with ermine frosting, which is like a boiled milk frosting. And it's decorated with sugar cookies in the shape of the doors of Charleston. So, cake.
That sounds very yummy. What's your go-to comfort food?
Oh gosh, go-to comfort food. That's tough. For some reason, the first thing that wants to come out of my mouth is mashed potatoes, but that's literally not it. It's nachos. It's nachos. Like when I need some good, I just want nachos.
Instagram, TikTok. What's got your attention on either IG or TikTok these days?
So I'm an Instagrammer, not a TikToker. Respect to TikTok, but I'm an elder millennial. I'd say what's got my attention is paying attention to not what people are saying in their reels, but the visual they're creating with their background and what are they holding. This is so niche, but it's like, what are they holding that is making me pay attention to this before I pay attention to their words?
Interesting. I like that. Last one. You're an LSU grad, and we talked about this before we jumped on and started recording. So we're going to put you on record. How many games will Lane Kiffin win in his first season there as the new head football coach? Now, they're going to play 12 games for sure. So give me a number.
12 plus the college football playoffs and the national championship.
Oh, Anna, so unrealistic. Come on.
Look, if I'm being realistic about my own goals, I can be as optimistic as I want about LSU football. That's what keeps us coming back year after year. We have heart attacks watching the games, and we just can't let it go.
Yes, football, as I have learned in the South, is a completely different animal. And so it will be fun to see how Lane does down there. Anna, thanks again for spending some time with us. I have no doubt, again, this is going to be a ton of helpful information for the audience. And so I always appreciate catching up with you, and I look forward to the next time we do it.
Thank you again for having me. Happy New Year.
You're welcome. And I also want to wish everyone else listening a happy holidays as well. And I'll see you back here in 2026. Thanks for listening to Mission Admissions. This show is a proud member of the Enrollify Network, home to Higher Ed's the largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow, so be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit Enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.